Unaccustomed as I am. Oh, God. Well, no, that was the right way to start this, because I'm doing a Christmas special. Sort of. Hence the garb. Well, I don't do Christmas specials because I don't believe in any of that. In fact, as you know, I actively don't believe in it. But there is one particular area which is kind of a speciality at this time of the year. So I thought I'd, well, I didn't think, I just drank. But there's a few things I wanted to, not necessarily get off my chest, but help you to get off your chest. As someone who's worked for 5 years as a postman, on and off, well, 5 years on, staggered on, in a staggering variety of areas, there are a few things I'd like you, Mr. and Mrs. Joe Public, to know. I will number them 5. Weirdly, this is the most structured rant I've done for a while, despite it being the most drunk. Right, number 1. If your post comes later than you'd like it to, it's not because of laziness. Unlike you swivel chair snob goblins, we don't just sit there until the clock strikes 5. We don't get to go home until our work is finished. If the post comes late, it's because A, there's a time zone crossing mountain of post to deliver that day, or B, it's because the architects who designed the streets of this country are a bunch of fucking cowboys and you know it. This makes it inconceivably difficult to navigate the spatial turbulent noise of Britain's estates and housing complexes without already knowing it intimately. Every now and again you will get a delivery officer who has seldom or never done your walk before. Believe it or not, you live in a rat's nest. Have you seen what happens when your relatives try to find your flat without GPS? Give the goddamn postman a break. Or it's C. These days, the walk very often doesn't start until 10 AM. If you're unlucky enough to be at the end of the walk, you will very rarely get untracked mail before 2 PM. Because the world has become an extremely crowded and busy place in which people would rather get shit delivered than pick it up themselves. That's right, Joe Public. The reason your post is late is not because the postman is lazy, it's because you are. Number 2. Yes, your postman can read. The assessment to become a postman may not be quantum physics, but one does indeed need to be able to read Roman letters and Arabic numerals to pass it. If you got next door's mail, it's not because the postman made it all the way to Her Majesty's pleasure, not knowing the difference between a 5 and a 7. Maybe explore the lateral possibilities before leaping to the conclusion that the refugee to whom this fair state gave a chance at life is just a knuckle-dragging troglodyte. Tar very much. A good rule of thumb is, if you frequently get mail for random addresses in Shanghai and Johannesburg and Timbuktu, then maybe your postman is severely off his game. But if by some miracle of geographical statistics you happen to get mail for the house right next to yours, it's usually because you anomalously had no mail that day and the postman accidentally posted the next delivery point's mail on account of being on autopilot. The very same autopilot you bloody well know you go into at your job. And you screw up easily as often as the postman does. You just don't notice it. You have memorable stories of when the bus was late, or when the train was undesirable in some way, but you have no stories whatsoever of when everything ran smoothly and on time, i.e. 99% of the time when it comes to the post. Because that's not a story, is it? It's you being a spoiled, ungrateful brat. The Queen told me to say that. Number 3. Ah, God, this one. The sound of your letterbox flapping is the sound of mail being posted through it. as is customary. It is not the sound of Moses trying to bestow the crown of the second coming upon you. You do not need to come herring out of the house when I'm 60 yards down the road yipping, "Did you knock at my door?" We at the Royal Mail are not in the business of playing knock-a-door run for the sake of our health. If we need to get your attention, we will ring the doorbell and knock on the door, usually twice each. We don't want to keep carrying this garbage. We will make as much noise as possible to get rid of it. Maybe in your family it's customary to announce your presence by quietly flapping the letterbox. But can you try and imagine for me why that approach would not work for the postman? A very simple rule of thumb. If you go to your door and you see no red card at the scene saying you were out, and there is no postman waiting outside your door for you to answer it, then there is no postman down the street waiting to give you a mockingbird. Sorry, civilian, it's another lonely day, you could call it. Oh, right. Right, number 4. This ties into that because I know a lot of you are already thinking this. Sometimes the postman will deliver a red card, having not rung the bell or knocked on the door. But before you go crashing out the corridor like angry Moses, do yourself a favour and read the date on the card. Does it say yesterday's date? Yes! Yes, it does. That's because you live in a block of flats, don't you? You live in a block of flats with an entryway intercom, don't you? There is a 6-minute walk between your front door and the exterior blast doors of your walled community, isn't there? The postman who takes the letters and the small packets on foot has the time reserved to make that round trip. But the delivery driver, who takes the tracked items and the large items, doesn't have that time reserved. Don't even get me started on how much work the drivers have to do. God damn it. And see, what you did there was you ordered a 54-inch plasma screen TV and didn't have the foresight to be at home, or at least answer the door, for the delivery driver. Because the driver doesn't have time to keep ringing each and every one of your neighbours until someone lets them into the building so they can go up and down 6 stories of stairs just to deliver a red card, and because you would probably be none too happy if they simply screwed up the red card and jammed it into the groove under the dysfunctional tradesman's button. Settle down. What they do is they simply fill out the red card and take the red card back to the office along with the undelivered items and have the red card delivered on foot the next day by someone who does have the time reserved. The on-foot person. So they do that. Only to have you come herring out the door like a yeti going, "You didn't even look at the door! You didn't do your job proper!" If you did this to a delivery officer, I hope you got a good look at the facial expression they had while you were doing it. Because if they were doing anything but staring murderous daggers at you, they were showing superhuman restraint, having to go through this whole flip mode rigmarole yet again. Number 5. Pens. If you hold a pen upside down, it will only work for about 12 seconds. It's called gravity. You colossal pissant. Merry Christmas and fuck off. From the Queen.